Morning guys, Tater here, welcome to Tater Games. Today we are going through the showcase for the GameJam and it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Let's do it. So let me start off by saying that everyone did an amazing job and I'm really proud of every single submission. For now we are just going to go over the top 10 stuff. We're going to take a look at each game and we're actually going to give a bit of feedback from my perspective and read through your comments and your ratings and stuff like that to see what you guys did well, what you guys didn't do so well, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have we're going to learn a lot. Sometimes my voice goes a little bit high, ignore me when that happens. So let's get straight into it with our first game, which was called Adam's Ale. And Adam's Ale was pretty much, it kind of reminded me of a Metal Gear Solid game. It looks amazing, quite frankly. The entire kind of layout of it, the way you use the camera effects, the way you created the scenes was incredible, and I really respect you guys for doing such a great job in it. And congratulations too. I will be contacting you guys very shortly so that we can set up an interview and so that you guys can get a little bit of publicity as well as teach us how you made certain aspects which people are curious about. So they got the #1 spot for gameplay creativity, story quality and engagement, and also creativity of soundtrack and sound. Given they were #2 in the other two fields, which kind of just means that they did a hell of a good job. So when I played this for the first time, I kind of got the general gist of it. Pretty much you just use WASD to kind of move your character around, you press F to shoot, and that is kind of all I got. There weren't many instructions other than the story that was going past our screens and stuff. We're so glad you had the option to skip, by the way, because it does take a long time for those words to actually come up, and if people don't really care about the story, they can always skip it. However, I did read a little bit into the story, and I kind of think that you guys maybe could have done a little bit better when it came to that, but you guys got #1 for story quality and engagement, so who the hell am I to judge? Your gameplay was great, the animations were perfect, except there could have been a little more fluidity when it came to the animations, which is just another thing that I would say. And finally, and this is the only thing that kind of I have an issue with in this game, not seriously, just kind of off the edge, if you guys were to progress or continue making this game, then this would be something that you guys may want to consider, which is pretty much taking a very similar theme for both levels. When you get into the second level, it doesn't really complement the first level that well. I reckon that the first level, or the first kind of scene or atmosphere, is actually a lot better than your second level. I don't know exactly why I didn't like the second level. I think because the first one kind of gives you an overall feel, and then the second time you go through and there's this couch that just so happens to be higher sort of poly count than all the other models in the game, and it doesn't really fit into the actual game. But other than that, I mean, you guys gained fabulous job. We will learn a lot more about their process later in the week. Right now, we're just kind of brushing over the main things. Now we're going to get into a second game, or the game that came second place, which was a game called Vault. Vault was awesome. The entire game was pretty cool, except for this one part where you can't actually get past the main guy. And I played for quite a bit, and I tried to get past the last guy, and it was so hard. Anyway, you guys came first for gameplay creativity, and you guys also came first for refinement and optimization, coming up pretty close to the #1 spot. However, you did lack a little bit of creativity of soundtrack and sound, which again is something I would say as being one of the worst qualities about this game, given it was actually no, it wasn't up to scratch with the rest of everything. For some reason, you guys added this distortion sort of filter over the soundtrack, and I really didn't like that. I mean, the rest of the game was pretty cool. I mean, I love the laser effects. I love the fact that everything shrinks and it's kind of like nice. It reminds me of these very like nice retro style games, which was the theme of this actual game jam. So you guys did an amazing job with that side. It was only the sound that kind of peeved me off. I didn't know whether or not it was a soundtrack or coming out of the actual game until I actually saw those speakers. And yes, I get that you're trying to create a low quality sort of sound because it's coming from these very old loudspeakers that are usually set up around the place. The only thing that is an issue with that is that you do not need to get rid of sound quality in order to actually get the effect that you want. For example, in my game, I created the radio sound and I made it sound like a radio by giving it a low pass filter. Was it a high pass filter? I don't know. I got rid of the low end because generally those old type of speakers, and especially the speakers that you guys display in your game, do not actually handle the low end of music quite well. And so usually just taking away that low end and giving it a little bit of a crackly sound can also help to improve it. However, you guys went a little bit overboard with the distortion and it didn't really help your game out very much. Given your lighting was great, I really like the whole mechanic of not being able to destroy the ships, or you have to destroy the environment in order to destroy the ships. And if you remember Red Faction, I used to love those games, and it gave me a similar vibe to that. Like, so we can't destroy these, we have to use other things to destroy it. We have this sort of laser beam thing that we can use to help us along the way, but we have to kind of search for it ourselves. However, I can still not get past that big thing like on the first level or the second level, and I don't know if you guys intended that, like that was the end of the game. I'm not too sure. One of the best features about this game is actually that loading icon. It's amazing. It's so cool, and I thought that was so, like, when I saw it, it was like, whoa. Like, in comparison to the art style, which again is very great, but it's very different to this whole loading screen. And the moment that that loading screen comes up, I was like, whoa, I really want to use that into something. It looks bloody good. Okay, I was about to say cool, but I ended up saying good, so I said could. It was bloody could. I'm spending a lot of time on these first ones because they did extremely well, and we have to kind of give them a little bit of praise for doing this. Coming in third place was Kyoko. So overall it got third place, however it came fourth, of course, in gameplay creativity, look and style interpretation, fifth in creative soundtrack and sound refinement or optimization, they came sixth, and for story quality and engagement they came ninth. And I understand why they came sort of in a bad place when it came to story quality and engagement is pretty much because the story is so short. And that is one thing that a lot of these games have towards them, just because of that 4-day limitation doesn't really give you much flexibility to make characters sort of make people connect with the characters and stuff like that. In saying that, however, your gameplay was bloody amazing. I loved it. I love the whole ladder thing. I was like, oh, I'm gonna climb up on it, and I saw a comment actually that somebody else said that they had the exact same interpretation for it. They were under the understanding they thought that they had to climb up the ladder, but in fact you knock it down. It's really, really cool with that in that sense. I like the way that you guys did the hold F to drag a certain trash can around. I love the fact that you guys had a lot of depth to your game. That depth of field really makes your scene really good. I don't like the fact that you guys didn't add particle effects for the fire. You guys painted it onto the wall. And oh my god, I cannot stress this enough. I cannot stress. I don't know what's with me today. My words are all over the place. One of the greatest things about this game is the fact that it is actually black and white with very few color, but there is color where things are kind of important. For example, like the background and stuff is all like this nice grayscale, and it really makes your character stand out because he's kind of grayscale himself, just a little bit. And of course, his vest is actually really colorful. It gives him, what do you call it? It's like, it's very symbolic to its character. It's iconic to its character. I think that the only real negative feedback that you guys kind of have is that you didn't have enough time to actually make a story out of it. You go and you save these people from a burning building. It was very, very cool. The animations were very, very smooth. I love the way everything worked. There was really nothing that was significantly bad about it. The only thing was that the game wasn't long enough. There needed to be a lot more puzzles, but of course all of that came with the time constraints, so I very much understand, as I do with the other 3 games whenever I kind of critique. I understand that there was only 4 days. So yeah, overall those were the top 3 very, very good games. Now we're going to get into the rest. We won't talk too in depth about all of them. We'll just kind of brush over the top of every single one, including my silly little game, which is next. Everyone here knows The Lovely Morning. Everyone on the YouTube channel has seen it. I've taught you guys how to make a few of the components. In fact, I taught you guys the entire process of making the entire thing. But yeah, I pretty much came 4th, like the noob I am. But I did come 2nd in creativity of soundtrack and sound. And I think this is mainly because I added a lot of sound pieces and sound cues into it, something that not a lot of people did. Gameplay creativity was 6, and story quality and engagement was 7, which is weird because I really focused on the story quality and the look, and they did not come a very high spot. But I mean, they did kind of okay. Let's move down the list to the grand finale coming in at number 5. Now, something I really like about this game is that you do not expect there to actually be a sort of Guitar Hero style to this. I thought that was just a text-based thing. I loved the way that you wrote this story, was actually really, really good. And see, story quality and engagement should be a lot higher up on that list, but I think that's just unfortunate. In comparison to the rest, your game legitimately, out of all of the games, had a very significant story. It was very in-depth, and you kind of had a little bit of emotion. The gameplay could have used a little more work. I reckon that you should have been able to at least move within this stage area, but of course that was your choice to make a nice text-based sort of game. Anyway, I have a feeling that there are 2 outcomes, but I could never get good enough with the actual Guitar Hero side of it to actually, you know, get the good ending. So if there was a good ending, I'm very pleased to know that. But I got the bad ending, which was pretty much a failed musician crying in the corner. Coming in 6th place was Psionic Riot, which did an amazing neon kind of version of, like, it kind of reminded me of The Last Night more than anything else. The look and style of it was very, very similar to The Last Night. I love how you could interact with objects. I love the snarkiness that you get whenever you walked up to that bloody cafe. Yes, that's right, I read your game, mate. I heard... probably, what was it? It was like the Starbucks or something, and it's like, oh, it's probably full of game devs with goatees and beanies and coffee. I'm joking, buddy. I really loved it. I really appreciated those type of jokes. It's cool to see in a game. And they came first for look and style interpretation, which pretty much just what I said. It really enforces that. For number 4, they came refinement and optimization, story quality, and engagement came number 6. Overall, they came number 6. Creativity towards soundtrack was 7, but gameplay creativity was 16, and I couldn't agree more with this. The one thing that your game really needed was something else to do. I mean, you go around and you look and you talk to things and you interact with things, but there was nothing really to do. You know, you couldn't pick things up or you couldn't use stuff, but I do like the ending. The one thing that your game had, which I do not really agree with, or I do not believe served your game very well, was you guys used occlusion culling, and unfortunately you guys didn't optimize it perfectly, because every time you can sometimes move to the side of the screen and objects will disappear because it thinks that it is hidden behind a plane, which means you are cutting out things that are still visible if that plane has transparency. I'm very unfamiliar of the actual gameplay of The Last Night, so what you guys did, I have a feeling, is going to be very similar to the actual game, so you definitely deserve that number 1 spot for look and style interpretation. Right, now we're going on to Nyanseeker, coming in at number 7, which was, again, another very amazing game, but mainly for the look and quality. The gameplay was a little bit weak in comparison to, you kind of just move across and you hide. Now, there are a few things that I believe could have kind of made the game a lot better. There is progressive difficulty, love it. I think you guys did an amazing job with that. The look is pretty damn cool. However, I do believe you could have come up with at least sort of more ways to hide. I don't know about the whole 4-day thing. I don't know how long it took you guys to actually make this game. However, it did look amazing when I first played it, and I love the intro. Whoever decided out of your team to actually make the camera pan from the right to the left to start it out was perfect. Why? Because it gives you a nice sort of, it's like having a long shot in a film. It gives you a nice view of the entire scene, so you know exactly what you're supposed to do. However, there was nothing in the scene to actually see what you're supposed to do. So my firm belief is that you could have left the game outside. That rain is lovely, and it's a shame that you guys kind of only used it for a part of the game that was kind of unnecessary. I would have loved to see a lot more particles, again, in the levels that you're actually trying to get past these guards. The animation was great, however, I don't think your character fits the style of your theme, and also there is no shading on the character. So whenever you hit a light, your character doesn't get brighter or darker or any of the above. But other than that, the lighting was really good. In general, especially when it came to the scene. I love the pink lights, I love the green lights, I love actually that spotlight system that you guys created was amazing. It's all very, very good. You guys did, the worst thing you guys did was story quality and engagement. I think, yeah, this was the game, I believe, where the wife and daughter are kidnapped. I don't know, you get to the end, and then I think that story part was actually really cool, because a lot of people have been getting high marks for stories that didn't actually kind of complete themselves. It was just sort of a good game, so they gave a high mark for story quality and engagement. But your guys' game actually had a decent kind of story to it. You're just trying to save your wife and daughter. In the end, they get killed. Spoiler alert. Sorry. Overall, guys, I really love it. It's getting really good. So 2 games actually got that 7th place. So we had Nyanseeker and of course ELN or Alan. What this means is that there was no actual 8th place. These 2 kind of just merged in to create 7.5 place. We're going to talk about ELN, which stands for something crazy, I remember. It stands for Ethereal Ellen's Last Night. So one of the best parts about the game is that it actually had story quality and engagement, and of course look and style interpretation coming third and then seventh, and overall they got a 7th score. But the story quality and engagement, I don't exactly understand the actual story towards it. I did try to walk past the big chompy thing straight away. It did not work. However, I love that bus mechanic, and you have to kind of buy a ticket, and the only way that you can get a ticket is by actually, I think, getting the medicine. And so there was a lot to do. It was similar to the last game, the Psionic Riot, where you just kind of talk to things and you interact with things, and it's really nice to see. However, there were a few little issues that I would kind of say I do not understand why there weren't a little bit more interior design. I loved those first 2 kind of levels before you go outside. I would have loved to see a lot more inside stuff than outside stuff, just because the outside kind of environment didn't really match the inside. The inside was done extremely well, but a lot of the 3D models that you guys tried to incorporate were, no, I would say they're to style. I'm not going to judge them too much, but they were done extremely well. But yeah, again, your story was good, and I love the text. I don't know how you got such a nice text in such a short amount of time, but the way that the text is actually displayed when you interact with people and interact with objects is amazing. The shop thing is brilliant, and I love the way that you can actually accept getting on the bus if you have a ticket, and you can kind of say no or yes or all that type of stuff. You actually have choices. It's really, really cool. It reminds me of those old RPG Game Maker games, except this one was done in a very Last Night style. Good on you guys. Well done. Ah yes, number 9. The moderately interesting adventures of Grim von Salzkirchen. Why did you have to make the name so hard, mate? Know about Salzkirchen? Salzkirchen. That was pretty good. Come on. Anyway, the game was ranked number 9, and it did well in story quality and engagement, creativity of soundtrack, and sound. The best things about this game, I would say, was the animation. The whole elevator system is very, very well done. I do not like the combat system. Unfortunately, your bullets move a little bit too slow, and the enemy's bullets are for some reason really big. I didn't really get that, or didn't really understand. Also, when you jump, there's not really fluid movement, but this is one of those games that actually did extremely well when it came to sort of trying to attempt this a lot more gameplay than there actually was. So you had all these animations going for every single character. I love the foot tapping. That was one of the things I remember from this game, and again, I played these a few days ago, so if I can remember it, it's a very good sign. So yeah, the foot tapping animation thing was really good when you're standing still, and when of course you use it, or when of course you play the game, and you get into these whole elevator puzzle systems, they're actually really well done. I do not like the fact that there is only one bullet to kill something. I do believe there should be a little bit more combat involved, but of course you guys kind of understand that the movement wasn't as fluid as it could have been, and because of this, it is very hard to incorporate more than just the basic combat that you guys actually had. So you guys did an amazing job with what you had, and everything worked out very well. I really like this game. This game was really cool. Aha! And don't think I didn't notice, but I have a feeling you tried to do a Five Nights at Freddy's on me and put the purple guy somewhere in that start scene. I can see it in the preview. This and the Cookie Monster. The purple guy and the Cookie Monster, and you play as... your character looks a little bit like Chica. You sly devil, I remember this name, Red Heart. Finally, at number 10 spot, another amazing game. I love the animation for this, and this just reminded me of Rick and Morty. The game is called The Iron Front, and so you kind of play as this, I guess he's a scientist, I'm not too sure. He was wearing like a lab coaty thing, and so I just assumed that he was a scientist. And you kind of just go and find different weapons, of course, for your final game. And then in the final part, you actually fight these waves of, I don't even know what they were, zombies or robots or spaceships or something like that. But one of the coolest things you guys did was using those particle systems. I mean, the flamethrower was so fun to use. There's so many particles, and sometimes it's just nice and beautiful to actually see those particles being used at such a high frame rate as well. I don't believe this thing dropped beneath 60 frames the entire time, but I do run a constant rate of 60 when I'm recording, so I don't actually know if there was fluctuations between them. Usually it just records at 60 all the time. But yeah, he's right, all the fun of a tower defense, and I guess there was a little bit more progression into it, but I only got to these certain stages where I actually, I kept dying when there was too many around, and even though I had the flamethrower with unlimited ammo, I just still kept dying. I'm not the best at these games, but it looked really good. You guys made an amazing job with that. The one thing I would say is to try and keep the style that you had in the initial scene where you're actually collecting the weapons. Sorry, there's a mosquito there, I'm looking at it. Was to try and keep the, so in the initial scene you had a very nice style going on, and then on the scene after it, it was kind of like it was a different game entirely and it didn't really belong in it. So yeah, what I would try to do is keep the same style. You don't need to keep necessarily the same camera view, but the same style is almost necessary. Or else it just does feel like a little bit like too many sort of games kind of mashed into one. The soundtrack use was very good. As well. It was awesome. Everything was very cool. So they did very well in creativity of soundtrack and sound. They came fourth, and refinement and optimization they came fifth. Again, yeah, those particles, man, I don't know how they ran so well. There were so many going at one time, and I thought it was just an amazing job. And gameplay creativity got an 8 as well. So overall they came 10th, which was pretty cool, but I guess they technically kind of came 9th if we don't count those two 7.5 ratings. So yeah, stick around. We're going to continue talking about this over on the other channel, so the link for that should be in the description below. So hopefully I'll see everyone there today. And of course tomorrow we're not actually doing anything. It's a Saturday. So if you're leaving us now and you don't want to watch the rest of it, then thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you guys have a very productive weekend and day, and I will see you on Monday where we talk, and we're probably going to be interviewing the peeps who won the actual Game Jam. I love to talk to them. I would love to talk to them, sorry. And so yeah, it's just going to be a hell of a fun time. So you guys have a lovely weekend. Hopefully you guys send me your projects and stuff like that. Send it to me through DMs. I love seeing it no matter what you guys do. And I'll see the rest of you on the other channel so we can continue talking about this stuff. See you then.